So a few different things. One, FEMA itself is only a small part of the overall disaster preparation, response, and recovery. And so just last month, Congress stepped in and provided $20 billion in additional funds to FEMA. Let me say that again. Just last month, $20 billion in additional funds to FEMA. There are other disaster services that are out there. For example, the Department of Agriculture provided food in some cases. You have the Small Business Administration does low interest loans for individuals and businesses to help rebuild things like their homes. So that assistance is out there. You have the National Flood Insurance Program that is funded through an entirely different FEMA account that right now in just cash reserves and borrowing authority still has $14 billion available to them. So it's important to keep in mind that there are a lot of different accounts that are out there, and I don't see anything as being imminent in regard to FEMA running out of money. Do I think that by the end of the year, we're going to have to come in and replenish these funds? I do, absolutely. We're going to have to provide additional funding for FEMA. But let me say it again. I don't think there's anything that shows that there's imminent problems in regard to the availability of dollars. The other thing that's really interesting, and this is where we need some answers, the Inspector General from the Department of Homeland Security recently released this document that shows that there is $73 billion that is available to FEMA from disasters that in some cases date back a dozen years or more that haven't been spent. No one's answered the question on where these $73 billion are and why you're not using these as being a higher priority, meaning the needs in Hurricane Helene, Francine, and Milton being a higher priority. We should be tapping these funds now, and that way you can get a better accounting for what's needed longer term for these storms. We can find offsets or ways of reducing spending in different accounts and not simply putting all this on the next generation and the generation after through deficit spending or borrowing more money to pay for some of the current needs.
So if FEMA were to come back and say, hey, we actually do need more money, until Congress comes back in session, which as of now is set for middle of November, nothing can happen prior to that.
Number one, FEMA likely can tap this $73 billion. Number two, the administration has limited authority to change money between different accounts. Number three, you can prioritize monies out of that account. And so what I mean is that if you have some bill from COVID that was 4 years ago, you could say, you know what, we're going to press pause on that one for 2 months. And instead, we're going to address the needs of Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Francine, and Hurricane Helene victims. And then when Congress comes back into session, we can give an accurate accounting to Congress on how much money we believe is needed moving forward. We can make recommendations on offsets or transfers among different federal accounts, and therefore not incur deficit spending, yet make sure that we're properly triaging or prioritizing the needs of our American citizens. I think FEMA has a lot of answering to do, but I'm going to say it one more time. I don't think that there's any scenario where FEMA is on the cusp of running out of money right now for hurricanes Francine, Helene, Milton, and other disasters.